Baltimore's defense has allowed 10 points through 2 preseason games. That's not what changed my mind. This did. A year ago, the Ravens couldn't consistently get to quarterbacks. 30 sacks, their fewest in 15 years, and PFF's final defensive line ranking had Baltimore 31st. So when this offseason started, Baltimore didn't have 10 defensive problems to solve. It had one problem that could change everything else: fix the front. And after what just happened in Minnesota, the answer is becoming clearer and clearer. Now, before we turn one Mike Green sack into a September parade, no, I'm not saying Baltimore fixed its pass rush because it beat Minnesota 13-3 in August. Preseason sacks are preseason sacks. Quarterbacks aren't always protected the same way. Game plans are limited, starters sit, and joint practices don't even allow defenders to finish every rush. So this isn't proof, it's a test. And the reason I'm taking the test seriously is because we know exactly how bad the starting point was. Baltimore finished 2025 with only 30 sacks. The year before, 54. That's a 24-sack drop. PFF later noted that the Ravens' defensive line ranked 30th in pass rush grade, and its final unit ranking put Baltimore 31st overall. The team itself admitted this was an offseason priority, and losing Nnamdi Madubuike after week 2 mattered. But here's the important part. Baltimore didn't spend the offseason hoping everybody already on the roster would magically improve. They changed the equation. Start with Trey Hendrickson, 17.5 sacks in 2023, 17.5 again in 2024, and even through an injury-shortened 2025, PFF still gave him a 90.0 pass rush grade, 6th among qualified edge defenders. Then Nnamdi Madubuike gets back onto the practice field. He's not fully ramped yet, and Baltimore has been careful with him. But this is a defensive tackle who led all NFL defensive linemen with 13 sacks in 2023. Travis Jones is coming off his best year. PFF ranked him 7th among interior defenders by 2025 grade, and he generated 47 pressures. Baltimore also brought Campbell back, drafted Zion Young, and Mike Green gets year 2. That is not the front that finished last season. And Minnesota gave us the first interesting evidence. During the second joint practice, Hendrickson got credited with 2 sacks. One came against Christian Darrisaw. Then Saturday, Mike Green bends the edge and gets J.J. McCarthy. Very next play, Green generates pressure again. Minnesota holds him. Long completion erased. That's more interesting to me than the sack, because one explosive rush can happen. Doing something disruptive again on the very next snap tells me the tackle has a problem he has to solve. Then Ethan Burke joins in. Sack, forced fumble, 2 passes defended, 2 quarterback hits. And Baltimore finishes the afternoon with 5 sacks and 2 takeaways. Again, preseason. But the exact weakness we're investigating is producing evidence. And this isn't just an edge rusher story. Roquan Smith is still here. PFF has him 11th among NFL linebackers entering 2026. And here's a number I actually like more than the ranking. In 2025, Smith was one of only 6 qualified linebackers with grades above 70 in both coverage and run defense. Travis Jones can control the interior. Beaks, when fully available, changes what you can do inside. Hendrickson changes what offenses have to account for outside. Green gives you another edge. And now guys like Burke are trying to force their way into the rotation. That's where this becomes interesting. An offense can slide protection toward one threat. It gets harder when the problem keeps moving. Now let's try to break this argument. Hendrickson is 31 and played only 7 games last season. Beaks is coming back from a serious neck injury, and Baltimore has explicitly said his return remains a process. Mike Green still has to make the year 2 jump. Burke making plays in August does not make him a proven rotational NFL pass rusher. And none of this tells us what happens when an NFL offense spends an entire week building protections specifically for Baltimore. That's the standard, not Minnesota in August, September, October, 3rd and 8th, 4th quarter. Everybody knows you're rushing the passer. Go win anyway. But here's why I'm more interested now than I was 2 weeks ago. The sacks aren't the biggest change. The number of legitimate ways Baltimore can create pressure is. Last year, Baltimore needed answers. Now an offense may have to identify Hendrickson outside, Beaks or Jones inside, Green on the other edge, and then figure out what Jesse Minter is doing with everybody behind them. That's how fixing one position group can change the entire defense. Because if you can affect quarterbacks without constantly sacrificing bodies in coverage, Hamilton gets more freedom, Wiggins gets more help, Humphrey gets more opportunities to challenge routes, Roquan gets cleaner pictures. That's the ceiling Baltimore spent the offseason trying to raise. And right now, there are actual signs it worked. Not proof, signs. So did Baltimore fix its biggest defensive problem? I'm not ready to say that, but I am ready to say this. It isn't the same problem anymore. The personnel changed, the depth changed, the ways they can attack protections changed, and now the early results are beginning to match the offseason theory. Washington gives us another test, then the regular season gives us the only test that actually counts. If this is your kind of football conversation, argument first, evidence right behind it, subscribe. It's free, and it genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you missed what happened when Baltimore got a second shot at Minnesota after just one day to adjust in their joint practice, watch that video next. Day 2 gave us a much better test than day 1 did.